5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
How about we do it again?
6, 7, 4, 3, 2, 1. I think I followed it.
Okay, let's try one more
I
time.
definitely.
Ready?
Ranking review.
Say 6,
6,
5,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Happy November Ranknreview listeners. This is the voice of your host and random Canadian, Larry Parsons, and welcome to the first ever meeting of the Ranknreview Film Club. I have, recruited 5 regular Ranknreview guests to help me work my way through 6 different genres, and they're going to review one movie a month, which will eventually produce 6 episodes of this season of Ranknreview, of which you are treating your ears to the first one. So to help keep you warm this chilly November, I have all sorts of guests to fill your ears with. I've got Scott Lehman, Lee Beckman, Rick Fair, Jason Dubray, Mireille Smith, and as a special guest, my own very beloved sister, Tracy Brunt, is going to come help me. And we have thrilling movies with big stars in them. We're going to be talking about Jim Carrey in Dark Crimes, Al Pacino in The Hangman, Anthony Hopkins in Solace, Madeleine Stowe in Blink, Bridget Fonda and Jennifer Jason Leigh in Single White Female, and of course Liam Neeson, the man for thrillers these days, in A Walk Among the Tombstones. And the whole thesis of this first installment is, do movies like these require stars now? Because TV has caught up and in some way exceeded films, especially in things like procedural thrillers, psycho killer movies, stalker movies. We get them every night on TV. How do you make them work as a movie and as a star now required? Well, I didn't just ask myself, and I'm not just imposing it rhetorically. I asked everyone. The basic conceit of the episode, thrillers with stars. Do you think that in this day and age you really need to start to anchor one of these movies when you have Criminal Minds and Law and Order on TV every night? Like there's a serial killer of the week. Like how do you get people to come out for a police procedural nowadays?
Well, I think TV is where you're going to see this a lot more than cinema. There are movies like this, and there's a little bit of I think there's an effort to get these mid-budget 90s thrillers out, and there's been the odd movie here. There was the one with Ben Affleck and Anya how do you say her last name? Damos. Something like that. Which everybody hated except for me a couple of years ago. And even some of the horror movies of this past summer of 2024 feel very 90s inspired. But where we're going to see them is for a week they're featured as a new movie on Netflix, and then Vanish. They disappear into obscurity. I mean, that's where those movies are now.
That's where most movies are now.
And even if they do have kind of a star in it, it will disappear. Yeah. So that's where we're at. So
that doesn't mean that the movies are good or bad, but that it seems more so than anything else. An action movie, I mean, obviously you like to have a star, but usually the action is the star. In a comedy, you can get away with maybe having a star, but if you're funny enough, you get noticed. And in horror movies, same thing. But in this particular field, you need a star. Do you agree?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your input. That was great. Because that's the trick. There have been so many of these sort of procedurals, particularly with the, super smart puzzle-influenced serial killers that, it's really hard to sort of make you stand out. Like, once upon a time, when I was first getting into movies in the early 90s, Silence of the Lambs was this, like, earth-shattering movie. It was like a horror movie that won Oscars. And now, Silence of the Lambs is just every night on TV, right? There's, like, it's everywhere. It's ubiquitous. It doesn't have the same impact. So in order to get a movie like Hangman, for instance, made, I don't think it happens unless you get Al Pacino. But once you get Al Pacino, you can get people signing on who don't really care so much about the script. They just think it'd be cool to work with Al Pacino, right?
I agree with that.
And then, I mean, sometimes magic happens, but sometimes it just, I don't know, it chips away at the already shaky enterprise.
Movies that are geared toward grittiness, like this one, definitely need to be dark, and I really enjoy, like you said, star power, and I really enjoy it when comedians take on dramatic roles. I'm a huge fan of that. I think comedic actors are underappreciated for their acting skills, so anytime I can see a comedic actor in a dramatic role such as this one, I'm happy.
Yeah. Some of the other movies that I'm talking about this episode, like Solace with Anthony Hopkins or Hangman with Al Pacino, again, I wonder if those movies even get made if they don't get a star to sign on the dotted line.
Probably not. Probably, especially with dark crimes, I don't think it's really geared toward mainstream audience without a mainstream actor, for sure. I would doubt it would get made.
Yeah.
I never thought of that. You know, you seem to. I think you might be right. They do. There is something to that, hey? Where here's our hook, here's our story, and it's starring this guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not enough. I guess I'm trying to think of one that was really big that had nobody and a small budget. You could do that with comedies, I guess, and horrors for sure. Horrors almost thrive better without a big name because, you know, the big name actor is usually going to be okay.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt's going to be fine. Nothing bad's going to happen to him. And
variety being the spice of life. I understand that thrillers, there's only so many combinations of these certain stories. The grizzled detective, the really attractive suspect, the likable partner who gets killed, the Machiavellian serial killer. These are never going to go away entirely, but show them in a slightly different sort of order, or like surprise me a little, or make me think that we're going down this one path but then take us down another.
That's the surprise.
Yeah.
That's what makes it a thriller.
Yeah.
The shift.
When we get uncomfortable, because as long as we think we know where the movie's going,
you're not thrilled.
That's right. Or unless you think you know where the movie's going and then they take it out from under you. But if you think you know that where it's going and you're right, the thrills are gone.
Yeah.
The thrills are gone.
You have to be a bit surprised. You have to be, you have to second guess your train of thought.
Right.
You have to feel like there has to be revelations or twists.
Yeah.
Well, what I want in a thriller is I would like an interesting story that I haven't seen before most of the time. And I would also like, let's see, you think I'd be able to answer this question, without hesitating, since, it's one of my favorite genres and I love police procedurals, but, I'm kind of reaching. That's kind of like my baseline.
Right.
Just give me an interesting story that, is not predictable from the first 5 minutes.
But over and above that, what do you want out of a thriller like this? I mean, I know you're more of a sci-fi Resident Evil kind of dude, and I respect that wholly. But if you're sitting down to watch a thriller, what do you want?
I want to be, especially in a whodunit, I want to be fooled. I'm one of those guys who try to figure things out all the time, and I try not to, just to try to enjoy the movie. So something like this, I guess I should ask if this is a spoiler too much about it.
When we get into the review, we'll talk spoilers, but for now, we'll We'll hold our tongue.
Okay, like a murder mystery such as this one, I like to be fooled. Like there's twists and then there's twists, right? But just I like to be fooled, and I don't like it when they try to be too clever because they usually falls flat.
Right.
So for it to actually to stand out and for us to be talking about it and having the time to be able to see it, it probably does have to have a pretty big star, maybe even more so than it did in the 1990s when Single White Female came out.
It either needs to be based on a best-selling novel or have a huge name attached, but usually both.
Yeah,
and then maybe people will show up for it. But again, I'm feeling so old. I'm not even 50, but I feel so old. Like back in my day, people would line up to see Unlawful Entry. I remember seeing that in the theater. I reviewed it with you.
Yes.
But the theater was
one of my great memories.
It was jammed.
Yes.
Like, people showed up for these movies.
What do I look for? Hopefully something different, because we've been around for enough years that we've seen a lot of movies, and we're looking for something new. It just can't be. We don't want too much by the numbers. Sometimes it's nice, something just simple, easy to digest on a Sunday afternoon.
It does seem, though, like procedurals, missing persons, and serial killer movies are very, very done things. I guess that's true of other genres. Slapstick comedy's done a lot. Slasher movies are done a lot. But there is such a specificity of the A, B, and C of these type of investigative movies. They're going to have an original line of questioning or an original suspect that's going to dead end on them. There's going to be a likable partner or likable witness that something bad's going to happen to, and
and then we're going to find out, hey, I think we got a suspect, but it's going to lead us down the wrong road.
Yeah.
And something else is happening. Yeah, it's like all movies. I guess there's a template, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
Being more of the average viewer and not a movie aficionado and not tied into IMDb and understanding all of the relationships in Hollywood or movie making. It's an unusual premise that will first get my attention, with the stars more secondary.
Right. There are certain actors who I'm just particularly loyal to. If you're in the movie, I'll probably get around to seeing it. But I don't think I'm a movie star draw. I'm much more interested in the story than I am necessarily who's headlining it. So, thrillers. Do they need stars? Can they stand on their own? Thus, we move in to the first ever Ranknreview Film Club. We are going to be reviewing this episode: Dark Crimes, with Rick Fair being the reviewer; Hangman, with Nore Smith being the reviewer; Solace, with Scott Lehman being the reviewer; Blink, with my sister Tracy Brunt being the reviewer; Single White Female, with Jason Dubray being the reviewer; and A Walk Amongst the Tombstones, with Lee Beckman, the Beckman himself, as the reviewer for that one. And you're stuck with me for all of them. And I will do my rank at the end of this business. As usual, go into the podcast knowing that there will be swears, there will be spoilers, and there will be a good time had by all.
John, what are you seeing?
I'm not sure.
Joe, take a look at this. 416, Bible verse.
That's the time. 4:16 precisely. He knew that we would arrive at the apartment at exactly 4:16 because he knows everything. See, it's just like me. He sees things. Only he's better. A whole lot better. Let's go! The whole thing's a trap and we're walking right into it. Come on, get him!
You gotta talk to me.
He's way ahead of us, and we're doing exactly what he wants us to do. He's way beyond me, and I can't stop him. Which begs a more important question. Is he really worth stopping? something bad is going to happen.
Scott Lehman is back on the show, and he is here to talk to me about the movie Solace. Thank you so much for being here. One of the interesting things about this movie is that it was originally pitched as a sequel, believe it or not, to Seven. David Fincher's Seven. The idea would be that whatever, evil power was inside of the Kevin Spacey character would somehow have migrated into the Morgan Freeman character and given him this ability to see and empathize these visions of, all the people who are about to suffer. And they were going to build this entire sequel of it. The problem is that Seven was one of probably the best procedural serial killer thrillers ever made, short of Silence of the Lambs. And I assume Morgan Freeman wasn't interested in messing with it. So Solace kind of got turned around and, pitched from different writer to different director, different director, to years later it ends up being spat out with Anthony Hopkins and Colin Farrell. And yes, it is another serial killer movie, and we do have a lot of those. But I think to the movie's credit, the serial killer is very different. He at least tells himself that he's running on an engine of empathy, because Colin Farrell's character can psychically see that people are about to have a terrible death. He spares them that death by murdering.
Well, not just the death, but the drawn out pain and suffering, sickness, illness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that being the case, and assuming that he's true and altruistic about these things, then he's not necessarily a good guy. He's still committing murder, but he's certainly more complicated than your foaming at the mouth, mama never loved me, putting babies in barrels type of evil serial killer, right? It puts it on a different level. And then the presence of Anthony Hopkins playing a psychic and legitimizing that in a way that only a very serious actor like Anthony Hopkins could do. We have take the baggage of Silence of the Lambs into this movie, okay? So now we have Anthony Hopkins investigating a serial killer, and with the baggage of Silence of the Lambs, expectation, whether it should or not, maybe will go up with the audience. And then, as you mentioned, we have Jeffrey Dean Morgan sort of playing the instigator and startup of the whole plot. He drags Anthony Hopkins' character into the investigation. And I think Jeffrey Dean Morgan does some of the best acting in the movie, but I think that his character is the least credible thing in the movie. Generally speaking, I think I liked Solace more than I expected to. It's not just another generic serial killer thriller, but it's certainly no Seven. So I start in a pretty good place, pleasantly surprised by Solace, but short of blown away. Where does Scott start?
Well, like I said, this was the first time I had come across this movie, the title and everything. For some reason, it just passed me by. So it was a first time watch, and I wasn't aware about the Seven connections before. Right. I found that out after I read into that and said, "Oh," and didn't realize. But as I was watching it the first time, I did have Seven vibes. I'm not sure what it was exactly, but maybe because it was that style. We're trying to catch a killer that's always one step ahead. I guess that kind of thing. It definitely had that vibes. Anthony Hopkins, I thought, played that role great. Just him delivering lines, whether or not he's trying to act well, he just delivers lines well. Where it's like, okay, I believe this character now because he's saying these lines just perfectly.
Yeah. A different actor. I think a different actor would really go all jump through hoops and spin plates to try to convince us of his psychic ability. Anthony Hopkins, we just believe him.
Yeah, he was kind of played it kind of quietly too.
Yeah.
Didn't overdo it. He just said things well. And maybe it's just because Silence of the Lambs was such a big thing for him. And when I see him, I always go back to that. There were a few Silence of the Lambs moments, I guess, just here's the case files, they're handing, Anthony Hopkins case files, and maybe you can help us on this, but, and just the voice. But, I thought he was great. You understand the character, you believe him. And I was saying Jeffrey Dean Morgan, I liked his character. I enjoyed his acting. I think when he acts, his performances are kind of, he's got some charisma to him. And
Yeah.
you just want to hear him talk and deliver lines, whether it's Negan or something like this. So I did like that. The thing that was the catch on this was, as you said, it created that moral dilemma, wondering like, well, is it murder? Well, it is murder, but is it that wrong? Is what he's doing really that wrong? When he can look in and see this guy, his future is 75 days of just pure agony, and hardness for the family and everything. So I'm going to spare him that, and I'm going to let him go out now, and he's going to get a pension because he's not going to die of a natural cause. He's going to die of
gunshot wound.
The line of duty. So his family's going to be okay. They're going to find out through the autopsy that he had this underlying sickness. They're going to be relieved he didn't have to suffer. So that once that got revealed, I kind of got a little bit naughty in my chair, saying, "Oh, okay, this is kind of interesting," and it raises that thing like, I'm not sure. Am I really against this guy and what he's doing?
That, but I also, Jeffrey Dean Morgan has that great last conversation with Anthony Hopkins when he says, like, thanks for not making me talk about the stage 4 cancer, which implies to me that Jeffrey Dean Morgan knew that he had cancer from the first time he knocked on Anthony Hopkins' door at the beginning of the movie. In which case, Anthony Hopkins also knew. In which case, him being obstinate and shitty to his friend outside the door doesn't make any sense. In which case, him walking and talking and being in a good jovial mood, not looking sick, and still doing his job, knowing he has months left to live. None of that makes sense in the interest of sustaining this twist.
Well, I think some guys are like that, where they don't want everyone to know. They don't want everyone to worry. Don't be sad for me. I just want to
keep working,
drown myself in my work, and just, I'm going to work. Everything's going to be normal. The guy like Norm Macdonald, that kind of guy, where he passed and said, "Holy shit, Norm was sick."
Yeah.
And he was incredibly sick. But some guys says, "Hey, I'm dying," and you want everyone to know. But I can see it. Some guys saying, "I'm going to just surround myself with work. I'm going to just spend all the time I can with my kids." And he seemed like that guy, the family man. And you've seen a lot of times throughout the movie, he was excusing himself.
Yeah, to go talk on the phone.
So saying, oh, it's my wife, I got to take this. But in the end, it's like, shit, that was his doctor.
Yeah.
Or, I can't go, I have this meeting at 9, I have to go to. But it's like, no, he's going to the hospital at 9. Wow, they're dropping these things that you don't realize later, saying, okay, it was there all along. He just didn't want anybody to know. But he knows that Dr. Hopkins, he knows because they shook hands and he passed that on through his
partner, Abby Cornish, is kind of confused as to why he's going to this psychic right away. That makes more sense. He doesn't have enough time to do, procedural, wait for lab results, do whatever. So going to Anthony Hopkins does make sense. But if we assume that Anthony Hopkins knows that his friend is dying, which is what is implied by that last exchange, I don't know why Anthony Hopkins is so shitty for the first couple of exchanges to him.
Yeah.
But you're right about the idea of this serial killer being much more complex than I expected. Even like Hannibal Lecter, he kills people who he considers rude. They do some small thing that he, decides makes them worthy of killing. Whereas this Colin Farrell guy, he has the two agendas. A, these what he thinks of as mercy kills. And B, he sees a compatriot in Anthony Hopkins. He sees someone who could be doing this exact same thing. And I think I'm going to assume that the movie was originally implying that. If we go back to the Seven Roots and the darkness, dourness of Seven, he spends this whole movie stopping a serial killer who is running on an engine of empathy, or at least is claiming to be. And then we find out that he, in fact, himself, Mercy killed his own daughter and has that capability in him. And at the end of the movie, is he going to carry on this thing? I think if it was Seven, the answer would be absolutely yes. But I don't think the producers of this movie had the guts to fully pull the trigger on that.
Yeah, maybe not. I can see it. I did. That was hard seeing his daughter suffering that. It just brought that feeling about like, man, how hard would that be just to watch your young daughter just go to the hospital every day for 2 years, and every day just seeing her in that pain. And she screamed, "Daddy, help me!" And then he said, and then the worst day of my life happened when she died.
Yeah.
And then we find out that he was the one that took her out and put her out of that misery. And so Colin Farrell's character knows all this about him.
Yeah.
And that's why he's saying, hey, you can do this. So I'm not sure he does take up the mantle or not. But
every single thing,
we see.
just like in Seven again, everything that Colin Farrell wants to happen, including his own death, happens.
Yeah.
So I think from the screenwriting standpoint, that makes the most sense, that was the goal. He was, tired of this life of killing people and not being understood by the world, but he wanted to leave the world knowing that his work would go on. And he's successful in that, in theory, or he dies at least thinking he was successful.
And he was very, the method of killing, he was very specific in that the person would feel absolutely nothing. It's instantaneous, there's no pain. He would give them a little glimmer of some sort of happiness right before as well. Like he'd leave a little note in the room, I'll love you forever, or whatever it was. So like people are happy, they're content, they draw them a bath. So their last moments are good, and then he just ends it for them. So there is a lot of effort put into that. I guess if I had one complaint, I wasn't sure about the Colin Farrell as far as the casting of him.
Okay.
I'm not sure if he fit really perfectly. He just seemed a little bit too slick, sort of like a Chris Angel type magician kind of guy, just the way he was walking around, and he just seemed a little bit too cool.
I think it was the confidence. Because he'd seen everything beforehand, he was never worried. The only time he was ever rattled was when Anthony Hopkins hit him with the ashtray in the bar. And
That's right.
And then he
that
was not supposed to happen. He seems genuinely like, what? And then he leaves immediately, like, maybe it's not as sure a path as I thought. But I think that's where that vibe comes from. It's just like it's all preordained as far as he's concerned. He's not even that worried until that happens, right? He is going to get away with this. He's seen it.
Yeah, there were a few times also they did a couple little tricks where something happened, someone would get shot or something, and my mouth went agape. Thinking, oh! And then you realize that was just them looking into the future, what would happen if I do this, and then so they go back and everything's fine. But you only want to do that a couple times, or otherwise you're going to overplay it, and now we're not worried about anybody.
Yeah.
So I think they kind of just did it just the right amount of times. Other than that, they did the general, in movies when somebody has a vision or some clairvoyance or something, they have that sort of flash sequence where they see little clips of things, they put it together. I'm not sure if that's really what it's like or not, but that's the way it works in movies, and this wasn't any different that way. Some interesting camera shots and kind of angles and flashiness done with that. So it was entertaining to watch. It was visually, it was nice, acted well, and it wasn't overly long as well. It just kind of came in and it did its work, entertained you.
And that it's efficient, and I appreciate that. The director is Afonso Pueyart. I'm not aware of his work, but I will say he's certainly not, Jonathan Demme or David Fincher. He's not playing in the same field of Silence of the Lambs and Seven, but he is aware that this movie comes after those movies, and he acknowledges them and doesn't pretend to be anything else. And instead of emulating Seven full bore, which would I think be the instinct, I think he sort of tried to make this a more accessible, generalized sort of thriller. And I think that makes it more fun, but might take some of the teeth out of the potential horror in the movie. But I have to say, when I first heard the premise of warring psychic cop and psychic serial killer, I did not imagine that the movie would be any good at all, especially if it was being straight-faced. And I liked the movie significantly more than I expected. So, I mean, points all around that way.
Yeah, because Seven is quite a bit darker as far as the tone and pretty much everything that they're doing in it. So finding out that this was originally written as a sequel to Seven is interesting. So you're saying Morgan Freeman would have kind of had the Anthony Hopkins role?
I think so.
Is that okay? I mean, obviously it's changed, it's rewritten and everything.
Yeah.
But the basic bones would have been that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it maybe would have done better in the box office if you had something that you're following on, but it's probably better off as its own thing.
You don't need to make a sequel to Seven. Yes, it made more money than anyone expected it to, but Look, I don't want to oversell Solace either. I liked it, but like the basement that I'm sitting in right now is still reeking of spent seed from you and I recording the Muppet episode, and it's okay. It's a well acted formula thriller, and if you're in the mood for that, definitely check out Solace. But I am not meaning to put it in the same company as The Silence of the Lambs and Seven, is all I'm saying.
Or the Great
Or
Muppet
the Muppet Caper. Exactly. Although if this movie had a Muppet in it, it would get an extra star.
Yeah, well, imagine if the killer was like played by Sweetums or something. That'd be great.
Is there anything else you want to say about Solace, brother?
No, but I'm glad you kind of every now and then you'll bring a movie to my attention that I wasn't aware of, or it wasn't on my queue to watch, and so it's kind of fun just to I got to watch this movie and check it out. So yeah, I'm glad I did.
Sweet. Hopefully you're going to enjoy every other movie you review in this project just as much.
I hope so.
Humans reach visual maturity at age 9. Emma was blinded at 8. You just don't know what you'll see.
Mr. Cachetto?
It's all right. Go back to bed.
She's dead, right?
Is there anything else you could tell me about Valerie Whitney?
She was a noisy lover.
Did she have a boyfriend that you know?
I could hear him.
You got a name on him? You know his name?
Oh, baby.
Oh, baby. So your eyes are having a delayed reaction to reality.
I guess you could say that.
So what is that? Your eyes are driving the train and your brain's the caboose. It hasn't caught up yet?
I'm just beginning to think this guy is a figment of her imagination.
Yeah, I'm telling you, she's the key.
I can't see things that are right in front of me, and I can see things that couldn't be there.
You identified a copper as the murderer.
Can she see or not? You think I imagined him? You think I made him up?
I have one or two minor things on my mind. Not the least of which is finding this killer before he finds you.
So Blink, it came out in the early 90s. I want to say 1993, but if it's 92 or 94, I'm going to ask my listeners to forgive me. And it's one of these Chicago cop stories where it's sort of dealing with that rough-hewn boys club type of cop atmosphere. The other thing that occurred to me watching it today in 2024 is that there's been a lot of these tactile thrillers where you have to be quiet, or there's creatures, if you make any noise, they'll get you.
Yes. And there's been more than one movie where you can't, where the
Bird Box movie, or
where you can't see, where somebody is in the dark, or where they're blind and have to fight against assailants or intruders.
But they seem to be kind of in vogue. I don't know if it was like Don't Breathe that started it when it was the home invasion of the blind man movie, but like we've been seeing a lot of these sensory horror movies.
Yes.
And the one thing that I think Blink had in 93, other than the stars, was this angle of this blind woman who gets her vision back. And it's not a certain thing. She lost her vision at such a young age that she hadn't even fully developed her own sort of identity or self-understanding of how her eyes worked. So in her transition period to having vision, she's seeing all sorts of crazy nonsense.
And I might be completely off base, but I don't remember any movies earlier than this one that had that premise. And this one where she can see to a certain extent, recovering from her blindness, is a little bit different than the others as well.
We've certainly seen, like a blind woman in peril.
Yeah.
But this sort of recuperation thing. Honestly, the first act of the movie, half an hour or so, when she's getting her eyes back and her adjusting to that and her terror at the idea of being able to see, could have been a straight-faced dramatic movie, and probably a pretty decent one.
Absolutely. And I think that whole core of regaining a sense that has been so lost to you and is so unfamiliar, and in this story so untrustworthy in your recovery that you literally cannot believe your eyes.
You can't believe yourself, but you want to convince the police of this essential information.
You feel what you feel,
right,
and you experience what you experience, and all of your other senses having been heightened with the loss of sight, you can smell, you can hear, you can feel physically.
Yeah. And that's what you're used to.
And,
that's your
and
world.
so you rely on that, but your eyes are playing tricks on you.
Yeah.
And you want to be able to see.
And I think that part of the movie is what works. And it almost works enough for me to give it a sort of begrudging, respectful thumbs up.
Yeah.
But the rest of the movie, the thriller component of the movie, I remembered being a lot stronger than it was in 1993 than it was today. I didn't hate watching it, but it was not this sort of epic, memorable thriller that people missed that I kind of thought it was in my head, you know?
Well, movies have changed a lot
A
in
lot.
the last 30 years. And we have seen some things that blew our minds in certain thrillers.
Yeah.
That we were just like, whoa, okay, did not see that coming. This did not have that kind of feel to it. It was much less a thriller and more of a... It would have played better, I think, as more of that trauma recovery.
Yeah.
A drama.
There was enough story of her trauma with her mom and her trying to make sense of this new world. The actual murder mystery thriller, which is what they were presenting.
It almost got lost.
And it, in the end, wasn't really a mystery. Like, she knew who the guy was from the very beginning.
But did she?
We didn't know. Like, we were sort of asked to doubt her.
We got no confirmation of that, though.
Yeah. I feel like, I think we talked about this when the movie first ended, if we knew conclusively that, yes, the Madeleine Stowe character did properly see that killer at that night, and she doubts herself and the cops doubt her, but we knew for certain. The fact that everybody was in doubt, her, the cops, and us, muddied that a lot.
It was not a satisfactory resolution because that definition of that confirmation didn't happen.
Yeah. And the movie gets distracted by the romance and the characters, and I do think that like the acting is solid and the presentation of it is solid, and in a way, because it's so much better at the character drama and the romance, the thriller elements start to get lost in the mid part of the movie, and it just does become that character-driven drama that it could and maybe should in the end of the day have been.
Yeah, they should have picked one or the other and gone with that.
Yeah. But basic premise, that Madeleine Stowe just got her new eyes, just a couple weeks in, still adjusting to it. She hears some terrible going upstairs for her upstairs neighbor. She looks out to see who it is, and she sees this stranger who claims to be the building, like, custodian, but clearly isn't. But it's not until the next morning, as she's sobering up, where she really locks into her reality, what this guy was.
And it's a delayed reaction that is typical of recovery for this kind of surgery.
Yeah.
Which is fair.
Yeah, but all of these things would lead to A, her being a terrible witness.
Yes.
And B, because she reports the crime before they discover the crime, they immediately dismiss her as a lunatic. And the Chicago police, as so often is the case when they focus in on Chicago, are not portrayed particularly positively at all. In fact, it's an uphill battle to get to like our romantic lead. I think we eventually do.
Well, he calls himself and his team dicks.
Yeah.
They own it.
Yeah. And he kind of gets bullied into stupid things by the other stupid guys in the club, but he does have an actual brain and he does have an actual heart. It's just actually actively being suppressed by his environment and the people and himself.
And it's a trope that was typical in the time. And there were a few of them in the movie. The resolution didn't happen, and that's a black mark for me, where there wasn't, like I said, the confirmation that we knew who the suspect was and that it was that guy. We didn't get that confirmation.
It needed to be a meaningful reveal because it was that guy. The guy that she saw was the guy. But we don't know who that guy was.
We only believe that.
Yeah. we kept on seeing this face of the guy that she saw,
And
and
it
I kept
shifted.
on waiting because of how uncertain it was for it to morph into a character that we'd met before, that we knew, that would be this aha moment. And even though I'd seen the movie before, I guess I'd forgotten how that the ending played out, and I was kept on waiting for the partner James Remar to reveal something, or for there to be a plot point about one of the characters in her band, which starts to make us give us clues. But there are other suspects. There's the doctor who helps her get her vision back, who clearly has this crush on her. But it doesn't make sense that he would be the killer. So when the movie tries to make us think that, it's like a little counterfeit.
Yes. A little forced, for sure. There are enough questions that, like I said, it has the qualities that it could have been a thriller, but it feels like it was like a romantic thriller, which has been done successfully.
Sure.
But they really needed to choose one way or the other. I think, in my opinion, in my experience, it was not satisfying.
They were trying to give us so much that they ended up sort of
giving us
the bare minimum. Somehow, because it had to be this emotional drama and this romance and this thriller, all of them got diluted.
Yes. And so it was only lukewarm on all of those aspects.
But again, I will say, for all of the negative things we're saying, it is a well-made movie. It is a well-acted movie.
Oh, for
and
sure.
for a movie made in 1993, it's not garishly 90s. It's not one of those things where you're like, oh my god, with all of the references and the fashion and anything like that. It's still a very watchable movie today, and it doesn't, other than not everybody being distracted by their cell phones or whatever, it holds, quote, credible within its world.
Well, I had never seen it before tonight.
Right.
And I don't regret seeing it.
Right.
It was very interesting. And, thought-provoking. And that is the other aspect of a thriller that I enjoy, is if it makes you think, if it makes you wonder, if it
stays with you,
imagine what it would be like to go through that challenge of, again, regaining your sight, which you expect to be such a blessing, and it almost immediately goes wrong.
Yeah. It's a good, solid effort. I'm not enthusiastic. It's like I wouldn't say don't watch it, but I don't know who I would recommend it to.
Yes.
It's strange. It's
of all the thrillers, it's not going to be in my top 5. You got to watch this.
Yeah.
But
especially in this day and age, because we have so many thrillers like this that are really pushing it visually, and this is another sensory thriller.
But I would rather watch this than a blind guy in his house shooting bad guy intruders.
Right.
That really doesn't have as much depth.
There's nothing beyond the violence at that point.
Yeah.
And I respect that this tried to have more than how successful it was at it. The other thing I wanted to bring up, because we talked about it during the movie, it almost happened twice in the movie, and we both were like, oh, don't do it, don't you fucking do it. This thing where these characters start off and they don't like each other, and then they clearly like each other, but they're still fighting, and then they get into this argument that gets a little bit physical, and then all of a sudden, they're all over each other, and it goes from a fight to a fuck, and I really, really, really want this thing to be retired. Even in 93, it was old, and you still see it all of the time. They didn't do that, actually, at the end of the day.
They never did that in this movie.
They
came very close. But we both cringed in those moments where they got really close to that. I'm grateful that they didn't do it, and I'm also really grateful that you don't appreciate that.
There's a lot of eroticism to the movie, and that's very apropos of the early 90s as well, but it's clearly a more explicit sex scene than we need necessarily, but it didn't feel like this nasty raw dogging stop the movie for gross sex scene. It was these two people love each other, and here's a including a saxophone love scene between the two of them.
We're almost at that point, but despite the dick that I've been acting like, I'm gonna walk away and be a gentleman.
Yeah. I do like...
And despite her thinking she could probably push him into it,
Yeah.
she doesn't either.
I like that they took turns being the asshole, too. At the beginning, he was very much the asshole. But once she kind of gets a grip on him and he starts misbehaving, she gets acting pretty irrational, too. She has this flip out at the concert where she thinks she sees the killer, but the way she's looking at the crowd, like, she's looking for the killer.
Yeah.
She's, like, expecting him to be at the concert,
Well,
and it's coming from her.
She wants to see,
Yeah,
but she doesn't want to see.
yeah. And that's interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
And she's in this circumstance, which is super uncomfortable, and she's got this budding romance with this cop who is pretty much a dick most of the time that she's known him, and she's only starting to uncover his softer side, and all of a sudden he is all back to business in pretty short order after she confesses her affection for him.
Yeah.
So
This is also, there's another murder. They've kind of forgotten about the first murder and fallen in love, and then other people start dying while they're in La La Land.
right, and she's still all wrapped up instead of in the thriller, she's in the relationship, and so she reacts like the jilted girlfriend, which detracted from the thriller part of it, because it wasn't.
She's vulnerable and sensitive, and it wasn't rational, and she was lashing out, and she probably would admonish herself the next day. It was a little bit soap opera. It was a little bit high school.
It was distracting.
Yeah, it didn't need that.
No.
But I think the actors make it work.
They do.
I think that the script was a little shaky, and the actors push it over the line. But
it was still a good watch, and I don't regret it.
Thank you for reviewing Blink with me on Ranknreview, Tracy.
You're awesome.
You're awesome. Is there anything else you want to say about Blink, or can we wrap that one up?
We're wrapped.
Blink. It's okay.
It's okay.
So you're a private detective?
Unlicensed. I do favors for people. In return, they give me gifts. So, what can I do for you?
Someone's kidnapped my wife. Pay them, but they killed her anyway. I want you to find the men who did this and bring them to me.
Whoever it was took your wife. Didn't just pick your name out of a hat. I've been following her. I know your schedule. I've done this before. I'm not gonna do it again.
I understand we have a new player in the game.
In my eyes, indisposed, in disguises no one knows, hides the face.
I never laid a hand on her.
A Walk Among the Tombstones is adapted from a novel by Lawrence Block and written and directed by Scott Frank. And it has this character who has quite the long lineage, apparently, Matt Scudder. Former police officer, now unlicensed private detective and doer of favors. Kind of just a muscle, you know, a dude who lives in the gray area. I say all of that, but I have not read one word of any of these books. This is my introduction to this character, and apparently it's a pretty late stage story in the chronology. But for all that, I didn't feel like I was lost, that I had a lot of catching up to do. Liam Neeson is sort of a pretty standard, stoic, badass, you know, thriller protagonist. He is sort of the king of the kind of dad movies of our current age, right?
Yes, he's the angry white guy with the gun, yeah.
Yeah, and some of them are better than others, and because a lot of them are dismissible, arguably, I missed this one. I didn't miss The Grey. I caught The Grey a first time around, but this one I had to catch up with. And I really like this guy. He's written great movies like Out of Sight and Get Shorty, and his previous film to this was The Lookout, I believe, which I liked. I was hard on it when we reviewed it, but I did really like that movie. and he is still absolutely great here. The atmosphere is very strong. He brings together a great cast, and the movie is very tense. It's what you want it to be. So opening salvo it's a way overperforming but way darker than you would expect Liam Neeson thriller. So put it in the column with the gray and some of the better ones, and not the other side with sort of the more dismissible unknown. I can't even think of them. He does a couple a year, it feels like, the Taken clones,
Yeah. No, well, it's of that genre of film noir, in this case, almost neo-noir. I love this genre, and Hollywood once in a while makes movies like these, but it's really from, film, like, for films that are for filmmakers. They just love this, these kinds of stories. Apparently there's another movie called 8 Million Ways to Die that had Jeff Bridges play this character.
Oh,
I have not seen this film, and of course now I'm going to once we're done here. So there's another film with this sort of same, character, same crime world. And in fact, the writer, what was the writer's name again?
The original novels, I believe, is Lawrence Block.
Yes, Lawrence Block. Yeah, he co-wrote that too. So this guy has had a relationship with Hollywood just all these years later. It's from the 80s.
Yeah.
Apparently Andy Garcia's in that movie as well. I think Rosanna Arquette, but I could be wrong. Anyways, no, it's a great story. And then even that opening montage, like there's like the story sort of telling, the backstory of why this character is this way this is, why he, quit the force, which is, really well done. And then there's this really simple montage where it started off, you think it's like almost like there's a juxtaposition of violence and sex, because we had the, at the beginning, having that, pretty impressive shootout actually. And then you think the scene, the montage is starting off all sensual, but then it turns really dark and sort of disturbing. There's a mean streak to this movie.
Meaner than anything that I've ever seen in this writer-director Scott Frank's work. I assume it comes from the source material, but he handles it very well.
Yes. And I love the look of this movie. The lighting is subtle, but it's just... this film feels like it could be done in the fall. It feels like a fall movie. No one went to see this movie when it came out. It just kind of bombed, which is really, really sad, because this is a really good, almost Raymond Chandler-esque type story.
But the bland trailer version of it would sell it as just another, like I say, Liam Neeson thing. Like, to work plot, a friend of his, played by Dan Stevens, who is obviously plugged into... Sorry, say that again, brother?
And the world needs more Dan Stevens. That's what I'm going to say as well.
The guest, yeah. His wife was involved in a kidnapping, and he wants some personal vengeance. And these kidnappers are really ugly in how they go about doing their business.
Oh, yeah.
So even though this guy's bad, we can sort of, relate to his wanting for vengeance. And it's also interesting, there's the two guys that are doing the kidnapping. There's one actor that I knew, David Harbour, and another guy I didn't. And David Harbour is the bigger, more intimidating guy, but the more we learn between the two of them, it's that silent sidekick who is the real fucking dangerous guy.
Oh, yes. He's the one that is really... They're both, they both have issues. Methinks Matthew Scudder is probably a recovering alcoholic.
He's obviously dealt with loss his entire life, and that part of that whole grim opening with the sexuality and the violence is how little he reacts to it. Like, he's a veteran to this world, right?
Yeah.
So he has to find these kidnappers just to do the basic work of the plot, and while they're doing that, their latest victim is on the hook. So he needs to get them discreetly, because he's not exactly going to catch them on behalf of the police here.
Yes. I'm going to ask you one question. What did you think of the actor that is, sort of beautifully named Astro? He plays his protege, that character. It's always very tricky when you have kids in movies, especially stories like these.
Right.
They can totally sink a movie. I think of The Girl, like The Crow. Like the Crow is a very good movie, but that child actor,
well,
when they're bad,
It sounds discordant in a world that is so full of darkness that we have this. Well, I won't call this kid adorable. In The Crow, she's kind of adorable, right?
Yeah.
I think the movie needed a little bit of light to it, like just a little bit, but they don't overplay that angle.
I do love the relationship that develops between them.
Yeah.
I was going to come and say I think he's really good.
And it's the positive thing in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, like I just love how like the boy fucks with him, and then and Neeson just lovingly takes it. I love it. Yeah, I think he's really good. Dan Stevens. I want to talk about Dan Stevens.
Okay.
Dan Stevens, I think, is having the career that Johnny Depp had before he went into too much of the drugs and alcohol. You know, Dan Stevens, like him showing up, being like sort of the best part of the whole movie. Like he's good, but maybe the movie's not good himself, even though this film is really good. The world needs more Dan Stevens, Larry.
Well, his character is really interesting here in that, like, we know that he's a bad guy, but in this particular cause, he's righteous. That doesn't undo every other cause where he was probably, you know, getting his hands bloodied and causing other people to be widowed and other people to want to seek vengeance. Like, he's definitely more than gray, even more so than Liam Neeson. But there is a friendship and respect between the two of them, and it does kind of sting when it doesn't play out for him. For like,
oh, I know, he does one of those bad movie things. That's probably the only false step that I had. I'm sure it's, you know, in the novel, but I'm just like, oh no, don't do the whole, I'm gonna just leave the room and let me deal with it kind of.
Well, and it's just that country. It's the No Country for Old Men level darkness, and he was such a crucial character, and we don't even get to see what happened. He dies off screen, right?
Yeah, I know. But that phone call he gets to Neeson, it's just like, oh. Yeah, no, I love the fact that it does become sort of a serial killer thriller. Like the cops are like nowhere near the fact that Neeson puts it together through, like, because these guys have been doing it for what, 7 years?
Yeah, and they're getting pretty. Yeah, they're sort of getting sloppy because they like it too much.
Yeah, and the fact that they basically kill an undercover cop and get her files that way, like, bravo to like both the actors who play like the true villains in this. Like, they are scary. David Harbour, we all know from, like, you know, he's like Hellboy and Stranger Things. He's chilling. What's the other actor's name?
Let me see if I can find it here.
Yeah.
I don't recognize the actor, but like David Harbour was this big, like, huge, intimidating guy, and he looks like the real threat. And like when one of the kidnap victims come back sans fingers, he just smiles about it, and he said it was before we made the rules about, you know, don't damage the goods, right? He's not only okay with torture, he seemed to enjoy it. I can't find the dude's name. I can't remember the character's name here, so I'll see if I can splice it in.
Yeah, I think it's Adam David Thompson. That's correct.
Oh, thank you.
Adam David Thompson. In fact, he has hair, which is kind of funny because he's bald and losing it. So that's a makeup thing. Good for them. He's creepy. Both of them together, because he's quiet. Like, he doesn't say a whole lot up until like the third act of the movie at all. He's always in the background.
You sort of see him a little bit as the supplicant role. I'll do what I'm told. I don't want to, you know, mess with things. But we find out when things go south that nothing matters to him at all. Like, he just does not care. This guy who's been his partner this whole time, if you know, it looks like they're going to get caught and this guy's too wounded to move forward, he will icily kill him. Like,
and it's a mercy killing almost.
Well, it plays out really ugly, and not that we're sympathetic for the David Harbour character either.
Yeah.
I love the confrontation. In any other movie, it would be like the final confrontation of the movie where they're doing the hostage exchange, and I think it was the graveyard.
Yeah.
And the money changes hands and the hostage is gone, but Harbour still has a gun pointed at Liam Neeson, and Harbour is bewildered at the lack of fear. Again, Liam Neeson just remains completely stoic with a gun in his face. And he has that line, it's almost the only respectful thing he says in the movie. He drops his gun and smiles and says, "I guess I'll just creep back into the shadows." Like, he knows that he's a monster. Like,
Yep. No, and I think he is sort of impressed with the Neeson character sort of showing up. There is that sort of respect that they both sort of know each other.
Yeah.
Even when Neeson sort of like, throws his hand over that his deck of cards over that phone call saying, I know where you are, and starts, or not I know where you are, but I know who you are at that point.
Yeah.
That was, I don't know. Boyd Holbrook as well. He's another actor that seems to be coming, up more and more in sort of big budget movies. I never did see Narcos. Did you?
But he was in that Predator movie, right?
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
It's good to see him. It's a very different role as well, sort of a lower status character, which is nice. I don't know. Like I said, I like this movie a bunch enough that when we get off here, I am going to track down 8 million Ways to Die, because I do love this universe.
I think I understand why it maybe slipped by, though.
Why is that?
Well, just like if you again just read the synopsis and you saw just a surface level trailer of the movie, it just feels like another Liam Neeson thriller. Like, there doesn't seem to be a lot more.
Yeah.
It's all the execution here, know.
Well, film noir's never done really well at the box office. I think probably like the last time it was ever this kind of movie was, big in the sort of blockbuster, or at least big budget filmmaking, was Chinatown, honestly. Like, what, LA Confidential? I guess maybe.
Well, he just tried to do this Marlowe movie with Neil Jordan, but it laid a bigger egg than this did, I think. So.
Yeah. But like I said, film noir, there's been so many, made, that just almost never get released, like, as well, or sort of like the straight to video. Like, it's just a genre that, honestly, it's kind of like what westerns now are again. Like, there was a time after World War II, or I think it might have been even World War I. These films were like big, much like westerns were. They were sort of almost like not quite the precursor of horror, because horror was even around before that. But anyways, I'm rambling on and on and on. Sorry.
Well, and it's not just another serial killer. They're like sadistic kidnappers, sadists, right? But like, you don't know exactly what they're going to do. They're kind of unpredictable, which also adds another. It's darker than usual, but as far as these kinds of noir crime thrillers go, a really, really, really solid one. Good enough.
Yeah, that's good enough.
The murder happened here. I want the case.
Be careful. They will come after you.
We have a suspect, a crime writer.
His victim's body had the markings of someone choked to death using a fisherman's knot.
Only the killer could know those facts.
I think the book is your confession. You think?
I know he's guilty. Just prove it. But you get too close.
Talk.
You want justice? This is what they made me.
5 girls leashed like dogs for what drives most humans. Her hair was matted with blood.
Don't forget who you are.
This case is all I have left.
We're recording. Have Rick Fair here to talk about Dark Crimes starring Jim Carrey. And I do want to start by talking about Jim Carrey, because I do think this is definitely playing against type, or against what we would expect Jim Carrey to be in. The premise, as described, actually reminds me of a completely different thriller called Basic Instinct. But weirdly, if you lay down the plot next to each other, an obsessive detective is investigating a high-profile author because the author's book mirrors way too closely a series of crimes that he's been investigating. Those two plots are the same. The movies are completely different, but the plots are the same. Also, interestingly, just a year or two before this, he was involved in Kick-Ass 2, and he'd refused to do any marketing about the movie because he'd suddenly had this change of heart about being a part of something that celebrated violence in such a way. And to then turn around and make this movie seems really counterintuitive and strange. Like, I don't know where Jim Carrey's head's at, but I don't think anybody really knows, not even Jim Carrey, where Jim Carrey's head is at. The thing is that
interesting choice for somebody who, yeah.
Well, that's what makes the movie interesting going into it for me, is Jim Carrey. Everything else about the movie is kind of whatever. What is Jim Carrey doing in this movie, and does it deserve the negative noise it has around it? Because it was not well received. And just to give you my starter notes on it is, I think in a weird way, everything the movie wants to accomplish, it actually does succeed at. Like, it does have a twist. That twist does work. They do use the casting of Jim Carrey effectively against the audience, at least against me. I won't speak to you. So I think it does everything it wants to do successfully, but I don't think those things are enough for me to recognize the movie and like recommend it to somebody. Like, it in the end, it just doesn't amount to enough to recommend. I don't think it amounts to enough to hate it, and I do feel like the movie has hate around it, but it's unpleasant for a long time, and then it ends in a very noir, dark way, and you don't feel like, at least I didn't, that the end of the journey necessarily was a satisfying payoff. I know noir movies don't always have to have the big win at the end, but usually you have to feel played as an audience, or some in weird way satisfied as an audience. And it's weird. It works in every way except for that, I guess, to me. But how do you feel about Dark Crimes?
I think it was really close to being a really good movie. It was missing. It was like half. It was halfway with everything. It was trying to be very dark and very gritty, and it got about halfway there. I think they could have gone a little further. You mentioned it reminded you of Basic Instinct. I was reminded of how we went like undercover trying to find the makers of a snuff film. So.
Oh, 8mm. Sorry, you just glitched for a second. Yeah, this.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, yeah. So 8mm was the one that I reminded me of, going into the dark seediness of the underground.
They could have. Well, again, it's a hard thing because in a world post 7, you know, like. Or I Saw the Devil, the Korean dark thriller, like, the only way to approach one of these movies, it seems like, is to try to out-dark something that came before it. And I don't know if I want to see a movie that goes darker than 7 or I Saw the Devil. Like, as a viewer, even as a horror movie fan, I am not looking for that. And this movie does have that same feel. It's raining constantly, it's dark constantly, everybody is whispering and growling at each other, like all of it. It's just mood and devastation from scene to scene.
I guess what I was more referring to as far as dark and gritty is just more getting into the, like, some more of the backstory into the sex.
The specifics of the sex club.
Yeah, the inner workings sort of thing. Just to Jim Carrey's character is obviously meant to not succeed at all. But I would have liked to see him go even deeper into the into detecting exactly what the sex club is all about. A little more world building, I guess, is the term I'd use.
Right. Yeah. I agree with that. It's a slippery slope, too, because I feel like we saw a lot of the tape of the stuff that was going on in the sex club, but they didn't get really gross into the sort of rapey physical acts that was going on, but there was a lot of naked women being walked on all fours and a lot of like humiliation, and then they disappear in the room, and if this is what's happening in the hallway, what will be going on in the room? And I guess it takes some measure of restraint to take us out of that room. And I'm glad it's not like Basic Instinct, and that I'm not interested in watching an overtly explicit sex scene with Jim Carrey. Like, I don't think that's something that anybody...
That wouldn't be good.
No, I don't think anybody wants that.
No.
But I think the movie does successfully play me in this. Like, everybody's telling him to be careful of his steps. Everybody's telling him, you know, you're going to get yourself in trouble. And you innately cheer for Jim Carrey. It doesn't occur to you that he might be wrong about any of this. That the reason that they're warning him is not because the people he's after are necessarily so nefarious, but that his obsession with getting this guy is leading him down this path. But it's interesting that the stopgaps that the movie come up with him aren't the apparatus of the legal system around him, but, you know, the Charlotte Gainsbourg character. Did you want to get into the third act, or is there anything more you want to say before we get into kind of the meat and potatoes?
Say about the movie is that it's I know it's based off inspired.
A true case, is it? Sorry, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's in Poland, that's why they all have accents, right? And I think I would have preferred if they just would have played it straight without the accents. I thought the accents were a bit of a distraction. I thought it actually took away from Jim Carrey's role, actually.
Right. If it's not going to actually be a Polish thriller, then just lean into the fact that it's got Jim Carrey and all these actors in it.
Yeah, and I think it would have played better, in my opinion, that way.
It plays a lot like a lot of these European crime movies and TV series that my wife watches, and like that are super dark and grim. And this could have been like a particularly dark episode of that. But it's become a brand. It's just such a vibe now to just see the trench coats and the rain and the mumbling, like I said. Like, even though I hadn't seen this movie before, it felt like I'd seen this movie before.
Definitely. And for some reason, the movie Hostel also kind of popped into my head. They didn't go that route. Like, it's not torture porn by any stretch of the imagination, but it had that European dark and concrete feel of Hostel to me as well.
You felt that kind of danger was just in the next room.
It was just around the corner, and it never manifested, but you knew it was there.
Yeah. I think in another way, the stunt casting goes on to Charlotte Gainsbourg because she's associated with Lars von Trier and a lot of highly physically risky performances, particularly involving nudity and sexuality. So this casting again in this type of movie, you're kind of expecting it. Now, what happens to her character and the stories that we hear about her, and like, she has gone through it, but that's not necessarily why Charlotte Gainsbourg is hired to do the part. It's interesting how the casting in this movie was kind of strangely consciously meta. They wanted to trick us. And I think, at least for me, they did. How did you feel about the ending, going into spoilers?
Yeah, no, it definitely succeeded in, obviously the author is the biggest red herring you could imagine, right?
Right.
As well as the chief of police. The chief of police was actually a smaller red herring in my mind. He kind of dangled out there, but never really good. It definitely, I didn't have it on her at all. So,
right.
And it was the ending was still kind of what's the word I'm looking for? A little less satisfying than I would have liked, actually.
So he quote-unquote gets his man, but something still doesn't feel right. He needs to talk to Charlotte Gainsbourg one more time. And her face drops as soon as she sees him, and he says he just wants the truth. It's all he has left. And then abruptly, suddenly dies, having been poisoned by her.
Yeah. I don't know. I just kind of don't understand why she would have had to do that. I don't think it was necessary. I thought it was a bit superfluous.
What does she do going forward from here? Like, how...
Well, that's just it, right?
Yeah. But as far as me not expecting that to happen, I guess success. And as far as me wanting to believe Jim Carrey and that tricking me into wanting to believe he was right and that working, it does work, but it doesn't satisfy. It's not a win necessarily. But if you look at like Rotten Tomatoes or other aggregates, like the measure of this film is very low. I think I can say that I respect this movie more than I like it, and that maybe it doesn't deserve the hate that it has, but it's a hard... I can't think of who I would recommend it to.
I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to anyone at this point. I think it deserves a rewatch in my mind.
Let it sit for a while, maybe?
Yeah, get a taste. There's a lot of distracting things that I think I can just push to the side on a second watch. Like I'll be able to work through like the kind of clunky accents a little better on a second watch.
Yeah. And it's got these patient shots where it just sort of moves slow and crawls a little bit. But it is conscious. It's not like a desperate, low budget, we don't have money type of thing. It's a very conscious decision.
Yep, there's nothing wrong with the cinematography on it, to be sure.
Yeah.
And I liked the pacing of it. I like a slow burn like that. So that was okay with me. It just felt like it was almost a really good movie.
Yeah. But, I mean, I think it's for, like, the girl with the dragon tattoo type of crowd, right?
Yes, which is one of my favorites, by the way.
Well, that's an extreme... That's sort of what this movie wants to be, is what I mean, yeah. Is there anything else you want to say about Dark Crimes, brother?
I would give it I'm going to give it a rating at a 5. I'll give it, like, a 2.8. But I'll reserve judgment until I rewatch it again. It may push it up to over a 3.
Yeah.
But I don't think it deserved all the hate that it got. It's not that bad.
I'm right with you. It's a 50% review. It's hard to put a thumb up or down. My hand is flat. Thanks so much.
It's a 30-degree thumb.
30-degree thumb. I like it. Boom.
Have you noticed anything out of the ordinary?
There's a letter carved in her chest. Game of Hangman.
He's killed 4 people in 4 days, 1 every 24 hours. He doesn't stop. That's part of the game.
Catch him by the game board, he's gonna kill 7 more people.
Because of me, this whole game is taking place.
We're gonna find this guy.
I don't want to see them die for what I did.
You can't let it go. We're chasing a ghost.
And that will get you killed.
He doesn't want us to save anyone, he wants the game to continue.
You put your badge number on that desk for a reason.
You want this thing to make some kind of sense. That's not the world.
So I have Mireille Smith with me to discuss the film Hangman. It is directed by someone named Johnny Martin, who I'm not super familiar with. And, it stars Al Pacino. And I think it's called Hangman because standard serial killer thriller would just be too on the nose. I kind of got blown out of Al Pacino, especially in his sort of Scent of a Woman stage when he was like, even in Heat, which I love, but when he's just full-born, hoo-ah! You know, Al Pacino, I kind of get distracted with the sort of busyness of it. I guess I can say that he's not really doing that here, so I will give some points to that. It's not that sort of standard over-the-top Al Pacino performance, but it's also not him disappearing into a character either. It's, we've seen this. Actually, I've talked about another movie in this bunch called Solace, where a younger detective talks another detective out of retirement to help him with a particularly tough case. Like,
hey, that sounds familiar.
Right? I have seen these scenes played before and better. It is just so industry standard. And on top of that, just some of the premise on its face don't stand up. There is a journalist embedded with these police officers the entire time. Brittany Snow, I want to say, is the actress. Let's say that's right. The crazier this case gets, and the more like directly the people that she's interacting with, including herself, are getting their hands bloody dealing with this case, the less credible that her involvement would continue. Like, when the chief investigator, spoiler, is almost a victim of the Hangman killer, and she's still on the case the next day, I was like, I feel like it's not even pretending to be existing in reality. So, is the spectacle of the movie or the cast of the movie good enough to elevate it beyond the trappings of just describing it? I'm boring myself right now. So, did you find something here that I didn't, or is it as bland as I felt it was?
I didn't find anything extra here, and number one clue was 2017. That wasn't that long ago. Al Pacino. You'd think you would have heard of it, so that was the first sort of indicator that maybe this is not a very good movie. But yeah, the journalist, and every single implausible moment in this movie, you're given sort of a one-line explanation of why we should accept it.
Yeah.
And in this case with the journalist, it was some higher up said she would be allowed. So, okay, that's it. We don't need any more information. Let's just accept that and move on.
She gets lectured a few times about what she will be allowed to let slip, but no. Like, this is a serial killer who's playing a ridiculous child game with the Hangman letters, adding a letter with each victim, but on a ludicrous clock. Like, it's every single night there's a new victim, and like, one of the more frustrating things about it is, hey, how little solving the Hangman riddle matters to the movie. and B, like, how little who the killer is matters at the end. Like,
that's exactly right. That's the most bothersome thing to make the story. Well, that's why the story is not interesting, I think, is we don't learn anything about the person or why this is happening all throughout, and then we get his explanation of why he's a serial killer in one big dump right at the end, as if it was, a 1 hour Law and Order or something, and it's just and it's not good. And I mean, we'll talk about the ending, I'm sure, but like, come on, it's just not interesting.
I've talked about with some of the other members of the RNR movie club how when you're making these types of thrillers now, it seems like in the era after Silence of the Lambs and after Seven, like, you either have to be so stylistically strong that you stand out among this crowd somehow, or you have to somehow out-dark, like Seven or I Saw the Devil, or some sort of like crazy level that no one really wants to be. Do you want to see a movie that's that dour and that dark? Like, but there are swings that movies try to make. They want to like be that. And it's amazing how this movie doesn't do anything to distinguish itself at any point. Like, I would say, not that I've watched all of them, but I would say a mid-tier to below average episode of Criminal Minds is going to give you more and better than Hangman.
I agree, yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Well,
I like Criminal Minds, though, so...
Oh, I'm not trying to talk shit about it. I'm not trying to talk shit about it.
I still mean it as an ouch.
There was a time where a big feature film, that would dealing with the serial killer would maybe be a bigger deal than it is. And, yeah, I guess you're right. It does say something that nobody knows or thinks about or really watched this movie. It's only like...
And I got the feeling that... And also... the Hangman, the letters thing. There is going to come a point where it's not a very long word, so obviously you're going to work out what the word is at some point in the movie, so they decided, hey, wait a minute, I know how we can make this, a little harder to guess. We'll put the word in Latin, and we'll make it that Al Pacino likes to do his crossword in Latin. But why? Oh, he as a child at school he learned it. That's all we need to know. We don't need any other reasoning. It's just, that's interesting. Mark that as interesting.
Well, maybe that passes as interesting, but here's a completely base litmus test for a thriller movie, or any movie, drama, thriller, comedy, horror movie. Let's say, hypothetically, the main character of the movie dies in the third reel. Do we feel anything? And do we care? Because I would argue if the main character dies in the third reel and we're indifferent to it, then something really big is wrong.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, and they did try, well, you already mentioned kind of trying to be Seven and other movies, and I don't think necessarily they were trying to be that, but there were a lot of very close parallels where you see, you look at the successful version and then this not successful version, like of course, the older cop, younger cop dynamic, but just story elements like at the end when they have their showdown and one of the cops, Al Pacino, when he gets his fatal tumble down the stairs, also pushes the other guy down the stairs and he's incapacitated, he's bleeding out, and the other cop, you've hurt my feelings so bad that now I'm just going to shoot you, execute you.
It is
and
absolutely a murder. It is absolutely a murder.
And he had no reason at all to do that, and he's got we don't see any repercussions in his career. He just it's time to kill this guy, just like Brad Pitt did. See?
It's complete movie logic. But Brad Pitt in Seven, his life is ruined because of that choice. Yes. And he knows it the second he makes that choice. But he makes that choice anywhere, and it's powerful, right? In this movie, he
had a much better reason. I mean, you could feel why he would do that, and he was meant to, because that was a part of the larger plan.
In this movie, Carl Urban pulls the trigger because we're supposed to be devastated by the death of his mentor, Al Pacino, and he as well. But the movie's not executed well enough to justify it. It also spends a lot of time trying to make this Brittany Snow journalist like a not irritating, not useless character, even though she's a kind of irritating, kind of useless character. And in the end, the only thing they can fucking think to do with her is get her kidnapped so that she needs to be rescued. And, damn, is that ever a cop-out too, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, I wish that your first installment of the RNR Movie Club was going to be a stronger title to get out the gate from, but I was sitting here waiting to get started. We're bright and early in the morning, which is lovely and fine. I'm not complaining at all, but I was trying to think of things that I wanted to say about Hangman, and plot points to bring up, and it's fading so quickly from my memory that it was I was a little threatened by man, am I going to come off incompetent here? I just watched this movie and it's just it means so little to me. I watched another movie where the premise was, for this episode I watched this movie where the premise is the detective has psychic powers and the criminal has psychic powers, so they have to play psychic chess with each other in order to make this investigation work. And it is ridiculous, and yet wall-to-wall more credible than this movie.
Yeah.
So, Bland Sauce. Were you able to laugh at it? Was there any kind of joy to be found? Did you just give up at some point, or were you able to roll with the punches?
I mean, it was... I don't think I was able to laugh at it, until the very end, because that was just too much. It's just not... But, I don't know, you just kind of are watching it just with half your brain at a certain time, almost should I be doing the dishes right now or something? But it's... Yeah, no, it just wasn't... It wasn't good on a bad level.
No, and...
I wouldn't say.
Unless I misunderstand it, or I'm already misremembering it, which I'm conceding is completely possible at this point. Is this the most pathetic serial killer, like, reasoning ever? Like, at the very beginning of the movie, we witness a brief car chase that Al Pacino's involved in. This starts with him being sideswiped while he's doing a puzzle in a parked car. And this turns out to be a really important plot point, because that guy who swiped his car is the Hangman killer. And because he got busted that day, he was evicted. And because he got evicted, his feelings were
No, that's not what happened. I think your attention went away from the movie for a little bit. So Al Pacino put him away, but that's how they discover that he's the serial killer, because the other cop's wife got murdered, and the smart journalist goes snooping, and she looks at the case file that is in the guy's desk, and then she has a V on her chest that was carved. So then she figures out,
secretly a letter.
Doesn't that look like this case that we're investigating right now? And so then they do what you learn on every police procedural, which is that serial killers don't stop. So if they haven't stopped, then they either have died, they get caught, or
they're in
jail for a different reason. That's how they discover, hey, wait, he was in jail. And in 2 minutes, the analyst brings up her stuff, and they figure out, hey, it's this guy, let's go get him.
But isn't it an indictment of the movie itself that, like, as soon as you said the thing about Carl Urbain's wife being a victim, I remembered completely all of that. But for the entire length of this review, as we've been talking about that, it completely left my mind. Like, it meant so little to me.
Yeah, but the whole eviction, the kid watching his father commit suicide in front of him and stuff like that, like, even with all that trauma, and he was, obviously a foster care kid who got abused or whatever, even with all that horrible, terrible trauma, just the leap that, because they're showing the flashback moment where the little kid is, looking at the cop coming, and then Al Pacino is, in the moment saying, oh, I should have done more for you, I should have done more for you. It still doesn't track that the kid would blame Al Pacino for his whole life of misery.
Yeah.
Like, why? Why did that turn you into the serial killer?
He was already the serial killer, right? According to the movie, he was already the serial killer when Al Pacino stopped him, so he's not, like, the source of all of it.
No, but, well, he is this, because Al Pacino was the cop who found him that day. Yes. So he's somehow saying that, oh, because you didn't do more, I guess, to help me, now my life is ruined because of you. Like, it just doesn't track, it's stupid. And that he would, like, hold him in his... So, but to make all of this make sense, like, his beef against Al Pacino, the first step is to kill Al Pacino's partner's wife. That's the first step in this grand plan. It's ridiculous.
Again, like, I think we're putting more effort into it right now than anybody involved in the production.
Probably.
I'm just going to wave my hands and say, if you are listening to this and you haven't seen Hangman, good for you. Stay on your path. Is there anything else you want to say?
Well, you have to talk about the big last scene of the movie. We can't leave.
Oh, because there's a cliffhanger ending. We're waiting for the sequel.
It's such a cliffhanger ending. So even though this whole thing was a lifetime of trauma and a meticulous plan by this wounded individual, after the funeral of Al Pacino, the bad guy's dead, everything's moving on. The cop gets a note from a little kid. Hey, mister. Hands him a piece of paper, opens it up. It's a new Hangman game.
What does it mean? It doesn't matter.
Mean anything. Oh, we have a copycat. What's his reason? Well, movie number 2, I guess.
No, like everything else in the movie, it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. I'm sorry. I hope we have more fun with our animation episode.
Oh, I hope so too. I don't know what the future ones are, so it'll be a nice surprise.
Sweet. Well, I've run out of things to say about Hangman. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, but thank you for asking.
Mire, as always, gracias.
I've got a surprise for you.
You've got to be kidding.
I love myself like this.
It was like looking at myself. It was scary.
Someone who steals.
Hey, sleepy guy.
Ellie?
No, not Ellie.
Someone who would kill to be her.
Possible blood stains.
Gotta help me, Graham.
She's a lunatic, Ellie.
She needs me.
How do you lock the terror out
Don't make me come get you!
when you've already invited it in?
Look at me!
Bridget Fonda,
I know you weren't yourself when you did this thing.
Jennifer Jason Leigh.
I know. I was you.
Single white female. Living with a roommate can be murder.
Be careful, she's crazy.
So, in the 90s, stalker cinema probably was at its peak. I mean, I think it started in the late 80s with Fatal Attraction. Like, that was a huge water cooler movie. But there were The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, Unlawful Entry, Single White Female, Dream Lover, Deadbolt. There's a bunch that I'm missing. There was so many of them. But Single White Female is one everyone remembers. Like, it's I guess, quote-unquote obscure because it's an older 90s stalker movie, if we can say that and not shudder. But people seem to be aware of Single White Female. Apparently it had a loose reboot or remake, but it's not called Single White Female. But
there have been some movies. There was a movie called The Roommate, which seemed oddly similar, and then there was another movie with it almost the look seemed the same. I don't think it was an out-and-out remake or a revamp of Single White Female, but it was but similar idea of the two women. And
Single White Female in this style of the movie kind of taught me about the tropes of the genre. Like, this is if you'd seen a lot of these before, you could say this is pretty derivative, but I hadn't seen a lot of them before, and I did see it quite a lot. It played at the Paradise Theater for a while, and it was like $2 for 3 movies, and I saw it in theaters, and I saw it when it came on Super Channel. I even believe I remember watching it with my parents at a pretty, teenager young age. And the thing that shocked me watching it now is how sleazy it is. Like, it is a really, uncomfortable, sexual, ugly movie, and to its benefit, I think that the uncomfortableness is all deliberate. They want you to kind of be back on your heels the whole time. And it doesn't necessarily detract from the fun, but it's weird that I clock it more now than I did in the 90s. Also, it's full of interesting actors. Stephen Tobolowsky shows up in a supporting role as an asshole boss. This is one of those movies where, by necessity of the plot, all of the men around Bridget Fonda are terrible.
I have some ideas about why that is, maybe to the film's benefit, but
but it gives targets for Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Yes.
So Steven Weber, who was off of Wings at the time and was trying to be taken more seriously as a mainstream actor, it never quite worked out for him. I don't think that Steven Weber sucks as an actor. I just don't think he was ever given that opportunity to escape the guy.
This was a good role for him, though.
No, it's solid. He's an asshole, but you also kind of understand why she vibes with him to some extent. Mm-hmm. And strangely, I can't remember the name of the actor off the top of my head, but the sort of psychiatrist-friendly guy in the building, he showed up in Blink. I just reviewed it for this episode. Yeah. He's the doctor who cures the blindness in Blink. So, strange. All the pieces are here, but it is absolutely a showcase for Bridget Fonda and Jennifer Jason Leigh, and they both absolutely bring it. Mm-hmm. I'm giving it a thumbs up review, even an enthusiastic thumbs up review, but here comes the but. There are no surprises in this movie. Everything you think is going to happen is going to happen. It is Jennifer Jason Leigh and Bridget Fonda, who are elevating this above that. And of course, to take nothing away from Barbara Schroeder too, a really, really good visual director. But there's nothing special about the movie's premise or script, but there is something special about the movie's execution.
The execution is absolutely it. And Barbette Schroeder had moved into, like, this is one of those important directors. He was just coming off of an Oscar nomination for Reversal of Fortune. This was his follow-up project. And I don't know if you've listened to some of the commentaries. And I haven't reviewed Single White Female for my own podcast yet, but this is my second time reviewing it on. It was a fairly long conversation on another podcast called Schlock and Awe, and listening to his commentary, he wanted to bring, which seems now a little bit more of a mainstream thing, or a European sensibility to American genre cinema. So the rather graphic, and some people at the time called quite gratuitous nudity in this movie, the sexuality, he felt Americans are very repressive and the studio system is very repressive, and like, why not like have this as part of this story?
Well, this was the age of like Basic Instinct and Slither.
Same year.
And like they were pushing sexuality in these thrillers. That was happening.
Basic Instinct in The Hand That Rocks the Cradle was earlier
that
year, kind of in the spring. And then we got this another one I would mention, Whispers in the Dark, which is a movie. And this is me first kind of full calendar year where I'm a full-on movie geek, wanting to see everything. And I told when we reviewed Unlawful Entry that, I was in the US and it was my first time going to an R-rated movie.
Yeah.
This was when like Oliver Stone's JFK R. This was something
was
that
Madeline Stowe's Naked R.
Yeah, yes, it was. And I started to want to see all of these thrillers at the time, and watching it now decades later, and I've now watched it a few times, and it's one that just oddly enough every once in a while I will see this one, and it's just kind of, okay, let's get a 40-some-year-old's perspective on this as opposed to a teenage boy. It impresses me in a way, because you're right, it is a formula film, but it is so intelligent. And the casting piece of having Jennifer Jason Leigh and Bridget Fonda, but in particular Jennifer Jason Leigh, who I think we've both on our podcast gushed over, because she's selective with her projects and she does good work, even if the material isn't great. There are still things that's whatever, how many 15 times I've watched this movie or whatever it's been when I watched it to prepare for this, that I saw that she was doing, their body language and her reactions, now knowing all of the twists and all of the ins and outs of it, which are absolutely brilliant. Like, her original conversations when she just kind of walks in when Bridget Fonda is looking for a roommate, and they're having this conversation, and when she's moved in, and how she's kind of there's one point where she's talking about how beautiful Bridget Fonda is. Now, I always find that kind of funny when she's talking about how plain looking she is and how beautiful Bridget Fonda is.
Hollywood plain, right?
Yeah, Jennifer Jason Leigh.
You're beautiful. Get over it.
Yeah. I've always had a huge crush on her, and it wasn't just this movie that's behind that.
The Hitcher, man. The Hitcher.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I came to that one a little bit later on, but I was already on board with her. But there's this little thing that she does, which Bridget Fonda doesn't see, when they're she's turned around and they're sharing clothes or they're talking about something. Oh, she's tried on that perfume.
Yeah.
Of Jennifer Jason Leigh's, and because she was kind of snooping in the room and gets caught doing it, and Jennifer Jason Leigh, she sniffs Bridget Fonda.
Yeah.
There's all of these. We know if you've seen the trailer or the name of the movie or whatever, it's not going to be a surprise that she's going to be the creepy stalker character.
Really, just to say it, Bridget Fonda's been broken up with. She wants a new roommate. She brings in Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Without checking...
Jason Leigh seems really warm and the exact person she needs. And very quickly she turns... So just to say the plot out loud,
I
assume everybody knows Single White Female.
You could criticize Bridget Fonda, again, in the year 2024 for being naive. Why isn't she checking references or doing a background check on this person? But it was in its way, even though it was a more innocent time. And they make a big point of saying she's new to New York City.
Yeah.
And she doesn't have any friends other than
boss
Steven
is terrible,
Weber.
her
And,
boyfriend's kinda
so
terrible.
this, like, she's going through a lot. And this is it seems like a really kind of nice person to share the space and kind of move into this next phase with. And she's just not seeing the warning signs of this woman. Later on in the movie, just the details of how we kind of think Sadie, right, is that she's had this trauma or psychological, that she's a psycho or whatever, but she is actually very brilliant. Like, when things go south towards the end of the movie, she takes care of everything.
She's calculated.
And she has, from the beginning, she's been in control, and she has played Bridget Fonda beautifully.
She is never not playing a role. She is never not. Even when she first comes in there, she's being exactly what Bridget Fonda needs her to be. And you could argue that maybe that's naive of the character. I think if they were to do it now, they would want us to feel more sympathy for the Jennifer Jason Leigh character.
I do.
And
I do.
What's interesting to me is that at the time I saw it because of how good her performance was, but also because of how good her performance was and because of how calculated she was.
Yes.
I found it impossible. I empathize because I see her pain, I see her crying, I see her upset, and she's such a good actress that I empathize with the pain that she's feeling. Mm-hmm. But these choices that she's making are all calculated and knowingly selfish and wrong. Mm-hmm. So, like, I think nowadays it might even be like that she would be more the focal point in a way than the Bridget Fonda character, and it would be a tragedy about her slowly falling apart. Because from her perspective, she got this perfect living arrangement with this perfect girl who she loved, and she begged her, I just don't want this to be disrupted. I don't want to get, set down roots, make a nest, and have it disrupted. And that's exactly what happens. Like, Bridget Fonda plays a part in setting her off into her madness. But once she goes mad, and maybe it's because I'm a dog person, the dog won't come to her when she calls the dog.
Oh, yeah, that's horrible.
She kills the dog, and she blames the murder on Bridget Fonda.
Well,
right?
and Steven Weber.
But she uses that to manipulate herself further. Those are the actions of someone who doesn't have any emotional, reality beyond their own needs. Well, and that is not something I can ever feel sorry for. But holy shit, is her performance amazing.
Yeah. But to a certain extent, I thought in a lesser movie, and again, huge spoilers for this if you've never seen it, but she had a twin sister.
Yeah.
The sister died in a horrible tragedy. And when I'd gone a few years between, for some reason I had this false memory that there was a thing where she had killed her.
She feels
sister,
responsible
but
somehow.
she feels responsible that her sister drowned or died. And I think that broke her. That's and she's trying to duplicate it. They had a little dog. Mm-hmm. This was the person. They'd share clothes. They would share makeup, and she's looking for that person. And there is she has done this over and over and over again, clung on to somebody, but that person has always abandoned her.
Yeah.
As a result, but there is something about. She's not she's not as full on a villain. She is the villain. She's the antagonist. She starts to do bad things, but if you notice, she doesn't become violent unless she's cornered.
When the plan starts falling apart, she's terrified. Mm-hmm. She starts crying and her voice starts breaking. All of her confidence goes away. Yeah. And you hear fragility in her for the first time, in spite of the ice cold murders that she just participated in.
But those were always when she was cornered. It wasn't think she was going out, I'm intending to murder Steven Weber, for example, but she was going to be put in a corner in an impossible situation where everything was going to fall. It was going to get even worse for her. And And that's when...
Well, I think that seems...
It's a very famous murder scene in the film.
That and all of the sexuality in the movie is... Because that's another thing that I remembered it being sexy, but I didn't remember it being this sort of graphically sexy.
Well, I mean, that scene is graphic. I mean, yeah.
She's going down on Steven Weber, and he doesn't realize who he's with.
Because she has the same
She's cut her
hair and
identically.
same clothes as Bridget Fonda, yeah.
And so, yeah, that's really bizarre. But there's something about the movie, all of the scenes, especially that one, but even the scene where she gets out of the shower in front of Bridget Fonda, and she does it in this weird, slinky, kind of strange way. Bridget Fonda is clearly uncomfortable, and Jennifer Jason Leigh clearly either doesn't know that she's uncomfortable or doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
So we have all of these quote-unquote sexual scenes, but they are the opposite of erotic to me. They actually make me really uncomfortable, which is strange because, like, as we discussed, I'm a big Jennifer Jason Leigh fan. She's in this Hitcher slasher movie I saw when I was a kid, and I was always bummed out with how they treated her character.
Yeah, I know, and yeah.
So I was always cheering for her. I also want to congratulate the movie on not indulging on at least one cliche. Yes, Bridget Fonda appears to get strangled at one point, but she comes back to life. That's very Hollywood. But when Jennifer Jason Leigh goes down in this movie, bitch stays down.
Yeah, she's in...
that almost never happens.
Yeah.
Even in Misery.
Misery, which is great,
love,
yes.
That happens. The false kill. It was like they got a jump scare of the century in the 60s with Wait Until Dark, with the fake death of Alan Arkin, and Hollywood's just gone back to that again and again and again. And in a movie that really does indulge in every cliche of the genre, this one does not, and I appreciate it.
Now, Don Roos, the screenwriter for this, and a pretty good filmmaker too. Just I'm not sure ever got as big as he could have been. As I understand it, his original version of the film ended with that scene in the elevator.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I could be wrong about this, and I'm sure somebody on the interweb net or whatever would correct me on this one, but I believe in his original version that Bridget Fonda actually dies.
Oh, wow. So it was
and
super
she
dark.
goes and she
just
gets
takes
away
her
with
life.
it. But there's somebody who came in here, and he's not even sure who wrote the last section of the film, because I think Barbette Schroeder really identified and cared about the Jennifer Jason Leigh character, and there's a little bit of a sad sentimentality. I mean, I think there's a couple notes in that very last scene which you could be kind of going, okay, we got this voiceover, and our last shot is this picture which is ripped in half of the two of them from when they took this picture together, and they look like the two halves of one person. And yet there's just this kind of this sadness behind, like, this young woman has died and she was just never willing, or they were never ever able to get her help. That she wasn't a lost cause necessarily. I mean, she had been through a lot of stuff and had honed her craft by the time she walked into that apartment. But that this isn't somebody who is all bad or was born bad necessarily. And I know we sometimes go into this sometimes a little bit with some characters who do bad things, and you think they should be judged harshly, and I'm kind of...
Well, I don't know if they should be judged harshly. We have both had issues with, quote, unlikable characters, but it's the kinds of unlikable characters. Yeah. You can get behind a bunch of gangsters doing gangster shit. You can't get behind a bunch of ignorant teenagers being ignorant teenagers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think if a character, if it's an evil character or a villain or whatever, if they are interesting and the actor is interesting and memorable, then I will defend it.
Yeah.
If it's... I just don't find anything about this the actor who's played it, the character, or any of those things, and they're just dicks.
Yeah.
I just cannot seem to get behind that, and that maybe clouds some of my reviews sometimes.
And, like, you could be arguing, like, the Stephen Tobolowsky character, a dick. The Steven Weber character, kind of a dick.
But Stephen Tobolowsky, that's what was interesting about that. I mean, in some ways, like, there is a bit of a reprimand for his almost looking at this movie post Me Too it looks like, okay, well, you're going to be taking advantage like this. You're going to pay for it. So when Jennifer Jason Leigh pretends to be Bridget Fonda and talks on the phone and says, "I'll talk to your wife and I'll ruin your life and everything," there's that. Plus, Fonda's so brilliant at computers, like everything seemed kind of new and exciting pre-internet there, that she found a way that she would get paid and she would screw this guy over because he took advantage of her.
He gets there,
but he becomes the the Doc Halloran of this movie. Like he's the one who goes there and he's going there for a completely different purpose, but he figures out something isn't right and busts in and
he tries to help.
And he's like, "Oh, okay." But it would be really sickening if this was the guy who actually rescued Bridget Fonda from her situation, it would be sexual abuser.
It would be surprising.
But they did something kind of interesting there. Okay, yeah, he's bad, but he's
not that bad.
He's not that bad, but
he'll take advantage of her at work. He'll be a shitty husband. He'll be a shitty boss.
Yeah.
But he is not a murderer.
Yeah.
And when he walks in and he sees her tied up, I think all of the dots fall into place right away. Oh, this wasn't her doing this to me. And he believes it right away. Unfortunately, he's then shot in the face. But
of course. What do you think about the gay neighbor friend? I think the fact that he was an openly gay character, that wasn't happening in a lot of 1992.
I couldn't decide
films,
if they wanted to make him seem sinister. Maybe it was because I just saw Blink. Same actor was playing the same role where you could tell he was really attracted to the main character of that movie, but you weren't sure of his motivations or if he was going to come to play negatively. So I couldn't tell what they were going to do with that character. And in the end of the day, they didn't really do much with that character. I mean, he helps her to escape from Jennifer Jason Leigh, which leads to the final confrontation in the basement.
Yeah. I mean, again, you could probably, that's a bit of a screenwriting or a plot point. There's a section where we're pretty certain that he's died.
Yeah.
And it's not quite the case, but where he was there a long time before he woke up, which I'm not...
Well, he got smashed in the head with a golf club.
But it was like more about a day.
Oh, really?
It was about a day he's lying in that bathtub. So if I want to be nitpicky about this fun thriller, I'm not going to be nitpicky about that. But I like what he does. And even when he catches Jennifer Jason Leigh there, and he's so kind, and we just want to help you and all of that before she lashes out. I think that was like in somebody else's hands, that could be a one-dimensional character that was elevated by a pretty good character actor and was not necessarily as much of a throwaway as he could have been. Not as well developed also as he could have been. He doesn't seem... He's an actor in New York. He's in this apartment too, somehow affording that. But he doesn't...
He's the gay friend.
But he doesn't seem to...
very common role.
Yeah, it was TV, of course, later on. That was the thing. But he doesn't seem to have much of a life other than this friendship with Bridget Fonda. And he goes out of town at one point, which isn't completely followed up, and she has to look after his cats or something like that. But I was just wondering if, for some people, that's been like, oh, that character's badly handled and things are dumb and whatever. I think you could easily dismiss this movie, but there's some really clever bits in it that
I do bring some nostalgic affection with me.
Yeah, there's that as well.
I can't argue that, but I do think if you like this type of thriller, this is a good one. I wouldn't imagine that we'd go almost a half an hour on
Single White Female. Yeah,
but it's solidly put together. If you're a fan of Bridget Fonda or Jennifer Jason Leigh, absolutely. Absolutely.
If I may, because we talked a lot about how great Jennifer Jason Leigh is, and Bridget Fonda is amazing. And there's this scene where she's had enough of this roommate, and she's trying to get back together with Steven Weber. And she wakes up in the morning, and she catches Jennifer Jason Leigh has made breakfast and is having this flirty chat with Steven Weber, and she is pissed. But she can't express it fully. But she grabs this apple. She's offered, I'll make you some eggs. I'm fine. I just have this apple. It's like, I want to get out of here as fast as possible. That is so well acted. The last couple times I saw that was one of my favorite scenes.
I'd read that she was offered either role she wanted,
yeah,
and that she chose the central character not because it was a central character, but because she thought it was actually the harder part.
In a way, it is.
It's the more invisible part. It's sort of like we talk about in Cape Fear. the Max Cady role in both versions of Cape Fear is so fascinating that the main character is almost invisible by contrast.
I will say, and just again in a heterosexual male way, the very first scene that she's in, I was not going to forget Bridget Fonda in this movie. So
Wow. And there's a scene where she follows Jennifer Jason Leigh to like this weird leather club, which is kind of odd.
Oh, that was an interesting, and she's and she, well, there's a lot going on there. But Jennifer Jason Leigh dressed up like Bridget Fonda and finding a guy who looks exactly like Steven Weber.
Yeah.
Really, but there's all these people trying to grab her. And
maybe the club was real at the time, but the club didn't feel very real to me watching it today. But maybe that's just
as I understand it, it was based on some clubs around that time that I don't know if Don Roos had been to.
I say that like I know the New York club scene.
I don't know. I don't either.
But I think we should wrap this out. Is there anything else you want to say about?
No, I just think it's for a few years I thought oh, this was just a teenage boy movie that I liked, but there's more to it than that, and I become a bigger fan as the years have gone on, believe it or not. So.
The Ranknreview Film Club members, they all just review one movie a month. I get to do 6 movies a month. But with that burden comes the privilege of being able to do the official rank. And I don't know, between the memories I had of the movies and sort of the fresh takes or the own baggage I brought into movies, the movies either seem to under or overperform for me. But I think the only film that was easy to put at the bottom, that was just the blandest and the least interesting to talk about all the way around. My apologies to Mireille. You deserve a better movie, and I'm confident that you got a better movie coming next month. But Hangman is at the bottom of the list. It is just not memorable. According to the world and according to aggregates like Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb, Dark Crimes was supposed to be the worst movie on this list. Although I get where it fails, and I get that it's too familiar to get it all excited about, I do think it does have minimal successes within it. And if you're wanting to see an against type performance from Jim Carrey, this is definitely there. Does all of it add up to interesting enough to justify its existence? Well, I don't know. In 4th place, I put Solace, but upon reading the synopsis, you would think it would be at the bottom. It is kind of ridiculous, and it kind of knows it, but it moves quickly, it's got a good cast, it's got a good pace, and the killer's different enough that it sort of stood out in my memory more than it should. Is it an amazing Oscar-worthy, high-caliber best thriller of the year? No, but it's a safe recommend. It's a decent watch with a great cast. Which is the same thing I could say about Blink, which makes it to 3rd place. Although going into the list in my head, I thought maybe it would be number 1. My memory of the movie was much stronger than the revisiting of it was, but I still think the cast is great. I think the concept is sound, and I like enough about the movie, and I'm attracted enough to Madeleine Stowe. Personal biases will play a part. That it does make it to 3rd place, and it is a safe recommend. It's less wacky than Solace, but only maybe just slightly. Single White Female is definitely the most derivative, familiar, thriller. It's a stalker movie, and it does everything that a stalker movie should do, but it is just kicked up several notches by the presence of Jennifer Jason Leigh and Bridget Fonda, and really everybody on board. It also hit me in the feels because I was a teenager when this came out. I was, seeing R-rated movies in the cinema for the first time, and it belongs to a piece of my youth when I first started really loving movies. So I'm saying I might be overselling Single White Female, but I'm very comfortable with it being in 2nd place. And to my surprise, the one that I had looked past and that I probably shouldn't have for a long time was A Walk Among the Tombstones. I think that it's not just another come and go, Liam Neeson action thriller. It's darker and stronger and meatier than most of those. It's not the movie that you picture in your head. It's much smarter and darker than that. But really, Hangman is the only huge miss, and Dark Crimes has got its own audience. The rest of the movies on this list are solid recommends. But I stand by my thesis. I think without the star attached, you don't get that good secondary cast. The movie probably doesn't get made. And these movies are getting made less and less. Like, these sort of gritty 90s feeling thrillers are kind of disappearing, and I don't know. I like them. I'll miss them. I hope you enjoyed the first meeting of the Ranknreview Movie Club, and we'll be doing 6 of these this season, so dig in. Our next chapter will be on the subject of animation. Animation for everyone. We'll see you then. Thank you so much for your ears. This is your host and random Canadian, Larry Parsons, encouraging you to check out the Shelf Shedding Movie Podcast, hosted by a friend of the show and member of the Ranknreview Movie Club, Mr. Jason Dubray. Definitely fill your ears with that, and keep on listening to Ranknreview. Check out the website at ranknreview.ca and send my feedback to ranknreview at gmail.com. That's RANKNREVIEW at gmail.com. We're going to be dropping every other Wednesday until we get to episode 275.